Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this series that I've called Found Objects in Motion. And it's a workshop where we're looking at creating some collage artwork out of found objects. And the purpose of this workshop is twofold. Firstly, we're going to be introducing ourselves to After Effects and techniques of motion graphics and some tools for motion graphics. And secondly, we're going to be trying to place an emphasis on generating our own content and using our own assets. And I think that that's a good approach in this moment of artificial intelligence where imagery is seemingly more and more generated by robots. It's good to make our own stuff and be in charge of the direction of our aesthetic. Anyway, these are the four objects or ephemera that I chose to work with. They were just things that I had close by in my studio and outside of my studio. And I've taken some very poor photographs of these four items, and they're still useful, and I kind of wanted to show you or just demonstrate how we could make something out of maybe seemingly not so good starting point. Anyway, let me get into it, and firstly we're going to prepare our assets in Photoshop, and then we'll move over into After Effects. So what we're going to do is in Photoshop we've got to make a PSD, or well, for this process anyway, we're going to make a layered PSD and mask the kind of background of our assets. So I'm going to use this script to load all of my images into a stack, and I'll just seek them out. These are shot straight from my iPhone under very poor light with not much preparation at all, and I'm sure that you will get a better result if you spend a little bit of time just preparing for a shoot of your objects. Maybe get the lighting consistent and the background nice and clear. Anyway, I'm going to load those items into a stack. Shouldn't take too long, and you can see how poorly I've prepared for this photo shoot. The lighting is terrible. I've got color casts and so on. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll do the best with this. I'm going to use some very quick and rough selection techniques. I'm going to use the object selection tool. If I had a bit of time, I might use the pen tool to cut out objects like this to make my edge nice and crisp. But this will do for this exercise. We could go into the select and mask space just to tighten this up a little bit. A little bit of a halo around the edges there. I'm going to turn on the smart radius and shift the edge right in, and maybe just feather it and tighten it up a little bit as well. So that will do, that's fine, and I'm going to output a layer mask and go OK. So I'll just turn off all of these. So that looks all right. A good start. Probably need to do some adjustments to the tonal range, and I'm going to do that with levels, Command L on the keyboard, and just bring in the black and the white points and open up the mid tones a little bit. Command U on the keyboard is going to open up hue and saturation, and I just want to, it's a black and white photo, so I'm just going to strip a bit of that color information out. That looks all right. And I'll name that photo. naming layers is kind of important in this context when we're moving from Photoshop to After Effects. So that's one of my assets. I'm also going to add a background in here so that we can see just something neutral in the background. Call that BG for background. And I'm going to pop that right down the bottom of my layer stack. Like so. And maybe position this down here. Doesn't matter so much because we can adjust the position, the composition in After Effects as well. So that's one object. I might make a selection of one more. Great. You can see how poorly I had set the color balance on this image. I think that's going to be okay. I'm going to send that to Layer Mask as well. The main thing with this is the tonal range is really terrible, so I'm just going to really lighten it up, and that makes it a bit crisper and nicer, and I'll call that flower. So you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here is just preparing assets. I might also add a bit of a drop shadow to these elements. This is a layer style that I'm adding here, the drop shadow. Bring the size down and swing that distance around. Actually make it nice and fluffy, big. Okay, that's good. I might just pause here and prepare the rest of the items here, just using the same quick selection technique. And I'll be back in a second. So you can see now I've kind of made a layer mask for each of my objects here. I've named them all, and each of them has a drop shadow, and each of them has transparency. I might just reorder these, so the card's right at the back, and bring our flower to the front. Now, to finish this preparation off, I'm going to change the canvas size of our PSD to the size of our output movie. So it was specified that we're making something for TikTok or Reels and Instagram, and that's going to be a movie size of 1080 pixels by 1920 pixels high, so portrait mode. So to adjust this PSD to that specification, I'm going to change the canvas size. So rather than cropping this, and that will, I'll just proceed there. That'll make sure that we kind of don't chop off any of the edges of these elements. Maybe I can just arrange them a little bit like that. But this is what we need for our finished, or to take over into After Effects to animate and kind of compose our collage. I'll save that off as a PSD, making sure that we've got our Photoshop document saved there. So we'll be saving it with layers, and we might just call it found objects. I've already saved one there, so I won't actually override that. I'll keep that, and I'll just show you my finished one here. It's very similar. Okay, so at this point we'll pause and we'll go over to After Effects and we'll start to get familiar with that space.